So I've recently been through a breakup, and I was probably on the worst form of my entire life for 3 months, and I couldn't really...
No, you were so unhappy. It was so painful to watch your little
Oh my God, please, can you actually stop?
I don't remember it being that painful. I was sad for 2 weeks and then I got bored of
He
it.
needed to actually get over himself.
Hello and welcome to Seriously with Sarah Beeny. Let's face it, having open and honest conversations with your family isn't always easy, but on this podcast, that's exactly what we're going to do. Hello everyone, I'm back, Sarah Beeny on Seriously.
I'm back too.
Yeah, he's back too.
Charlie, my name's Charlie, and this is Billy.
Yeah.
And that's Dad. Dad's back as
Yeah,
well.
hi, I'm sure
Dad's
that have been
back.
welcome back. Thank you very much, everybody.
So this week on Seriously, we're diving into breakups and heartbreak and unraveling the mind-bending mysteries of the Mandela Effect and tackling a listener question about sexuality. I was dumped once, and if I'm
Just
honest...
the once.
Yeah, I think it was only...
I was dumped loads of times.
Not surprised.
Was it?
Mum,
Thanks very much.
let's hear your story.
That's the sort of support you need from your children, isn't it?
I was dumped and I was really upset when I was dumped. And then my brother actually pointed out that I wasn't actually that upset because I didn't actually
How did
like
he do
him
it?
that much. I don't even remember. I just remember thinking, oh, it's the sense of rejection, which is
Yeah.
sort of overwhelming. And my brother pointed out I didn't really like him that much. And I thought, no, that is true, actually. I don't really like him that much. And then I realised that being dumped, it's much more about rejection. It's about it actually is less your heart that is broken and more your ego, actually.
I think it depends on the situation.
That totally is true. In this particular case, it was more my ego than my
Yeah,
heart.
if you really like them and they break up with you, it's not going to just be a massive ego boost, you know what I mean?
No, that is also true. So I don't think I can probably talk about it. You talk about being dumped. Have you had your heart
Because if
broken?
Dad broke up with you, you would miss him. You wouldn't just be a bit offended.
I'm not sure she would miss me that much.
I would. I would. Please don't break up with me. Please don't. That would be, I'd miss him actually. That is true.
Do you know what I mean? You'd be
Yeah.
like, oh...
I think it depends what age. I tell you one thing I think really, really feel strongly about is that when you have young children and they're in a relationship, which as an adult, you kind of think, oh, it's so ridiculous. They're only kind of 14 and they've got a boyfriend or girlfriend. It's absolutely ridiculous that they're going out and then they're splitting up. You have to remember that for a child, for a child, it's everything in their life because they don't have to worry about the mortgage and going to work and how they're going to, pay the electricity bill and how they've got to do this and do that. It's everything. It's all encompassing. So you must never underestimate as a parent how deeply a teenage child who has been dumped, how deeply they feel that.
I just think it depends on whether it's an emotional relationship or whether it's like a functional relationship. If one of the boys at 15 was to split up with someone, I mean, it would just be a bit less complicated than if we split up, but it would still be as sad if they really liked them.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. You can't think just because someone's young that
It doesn't
it doesn't count because it does count because they feel the same thing. So, whether someone's young or older, it's still...
They're not just they're just not quite as well equipped to deal with
as my brother
the
said...
disappointment of that we are at 50. You know what I mean?
As my brother said, the first time you're dumped is much harder than the second time.
I'm not sure I agree with that. First time I was dumped, didn't really care. Second time, can't remember. Third, fourth, fifth, they were probably quite bad.
It's like 4 weddings and a
Sixth,
funeral.
That was really tricky. I really, really liked her. In fact, she was definitely the one that, I can't remember any of them really.
So what do you think? Do you think that being rejected... I mean, being rejected is hard, whether it's...
I've been rejected before.
Have you?
I had a terrible experience, yeah. So I wanted to ask this girl out. So I made my younger brother, Rafi, dare me to do it. So I went on to text. I went, do you want to go out with me? Do you want to go out with me? And then she went, is this a dare? Is this a dare? And I went, no, it's not a dare, I promise you. And she went, no, I don't want to go out with you. Then I went, it was a dare anyway. Then guess what happens? She's in a group chat with some other ones of my mates, yeah. And they dare her to ask me out about 3 days after that. And she goes, look, made a mistake. Actually, I think I do want to go out with you. Do you want to go out with me? about half an hour of going, are you sure this isn't a dare? Do you promise it's not a dare? And she's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. I promise you it's not. So I go, yeah, okay, I do want to go out with you. Yes. And then I was like jumping around the room. I was so excited. It was all really exciting. Next day, going to school, and I walked in like, I'm the guy. I've got the hottest girl in school. And speak to one of my friends, and he goes, Charlie, you do realise it was a dare, right?
Oh.
That was a sad moment for me.
Did you ever go out with her?
She's regretting it now.
She'll regret it.
I wasn't very gutted about not going out with her. I had never even spoke to her.
But you've got a song out this week, okay? So which is why I was going to talk about this. Hello everyone, this is Sarah in the edit. Just a quick note to correct that. The entitled Sun's new song, Still Smiling, is actually out now to pre-save. Please do pre-save it though if you can on Spotify. It makes a massive difference. It's actually out on the 25th of April, but you'll be first to get it. It's all about this. It's about someone dumping you and they're so happy. And it's a brilliant song. Obviously, I'm obviously not in the band. It's a bit more
of a sadder song.
It is a sadder song.
Basically, what it's about is a girl that you really liked and you were obsessed with, just cutting from your life, just disappearing, and then you're like, "What the hell?"
Anyone cutting and disappearing from your life. What's weird though is that,
and then you see her social media, and she's like, I'm having such a nice time out with the mates, out having fun. And you're lying in bed crying, scrolling through her social media.
It's
going,
more than that though.
Yeah.
It's more than that though. It's about basically normally in a relationship, you have, even those ones that everyone says, we're just friends with benefits, all of that lot. There is normally always one person that cares more than the other person. That's kind of always how it works.
That's always how it works, yeah.
But being on the receiving end, being the person who cares a lot more.
I do remember being dumped by somebody, and about 2 weeks, I just couldn't think about anything else.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was awake at night. I was doing all of that going, oh God, what's she doing? Yada, yada. But then after 2 weeks,
worrying about her being with someone else, all that kind of thing. Yeah, that's all in the song as well.
Yeah, but after 2 weeks, you do kind of just grow up and go, I'm bored of being miserable now. I better get on.
I know a few people that have been really crushed by it, and they're like, they just
For how
can't.
long?
I know I have a
3
friend
months?
that was crushed for 2 years.
Really?
God, 2
Oh my
years.
God, life is too short to worry about that sort of thing for 2 years. No matter how good the person is.
Surely
Especially when the other person had then, been out with almost everyone in the entire year group. It was, and she was still kind of crying and heartbroken.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
It's quite painful. But then maybe that's harder to move on now because in your generation, you can see that they're doing that. At least in our generation, if someone split up with you, you didn't have a clue.
Yeah, you did. You'd talk to their friends.
Oh yeah, and they'd tell you.
Is she happy? Is she all right? Is she me seeing someone? Yeah, she's seeing someone.
It is hard, isn't it? But I think at the time it feels like it's all encompassing, and I think
love is consuming, though, isn't it? That's the whole point of it. And if you break up, if you break up with someone, or if somebody breaks up with you, and you're not unhappy about it, it was a bit of a waste of time anyway, and you must have had the most rotten relationship.
that is so true. Actually, that is so true.
I don't regret being with. Talking as if I've had 1,500 different relationships. I really haven't, but I wouldn't regret any time I've spent with anyone, really.
No, but especially if you feel upset about it. And I think it's when you know that something's over, sometimes it's sort of excruciating making them hurt as well.
Yeah.
When we were young and first met, we'd always be splitting up and getting back together, splitting up and getting back together. Never lasted very long. Yes,
what was the longest period of time?
Oh, about
I think you must have been splitting up. Yeah, I think you must have been splitting up with me where I didn't notice.
No, I remember getting across to you because I had a terrible dream and you'd been really mean to me. And so I woke up in the morning and said, I'm not speaking to you. And you said, why? And I said, because you were so awful in the night. And I went,
not speaking to me is slightly different. I mean, you've done that I reckon 100 times.
Yeah,
Woken up and gone,
it wasn't
I
because
can't
he was
believe you did that
horrible.
in my dream. And I'm going, "What?"
He slept with someone else in your dream, and so you refused to speak to him for a week.
It was 3 days. It was 3 days.
That was
Literally,
reasonable.
And in the end, I think, you know.
He even, do you know what? He even laughed at me, and that made me really cross. It's quite a modern thing. It's quite a Gen Z like thing, isn't it? The fact that you split up with someone and then you have to watch their life rolling out.
You don't
in
have
front of
to. You choose to.
But you can't really stop yourself from doing it. That's the problem.
You become more obsessed. When you're dumped, though, you become much more
obsessed,
obsessed with what you had.
Yeah.
It's if you've had something and then it's rudely taken away from you and you're going, oh.
You become much more obsessed with the guy that she's tagged in her post and what they might be doing and whether they might be. I mean, it's all just. It's
But
just
everyone
endless.
puts on a pretense as well, right? Like when you're dumped, I don't know about you guys. When I have been in the past, it's like, you know, straight up, you try and look like you don't care, act like you don't care. The last thing you want is for them to get the idea that you're actually really upset about this. You're really cut up by it. So in my experience, you kind of try and do everything that you can to avoid letting them know. But actually, if we're being honest, everyone's the same if you're put in that situation, regardless of, you know, how much you try and play it cool and how much you try and like act like you don't care. You do.
It's such a human emotion to feel rejected. You know, it doesn't even have to be, you know, your partner that's rejected you. It might be
That is true,
a
because
mate.
rejection per se, like if you've got a really good friend and then they kind of go cold and stop ringing you, or work, like, you know, if you've got like in telly, I've worked in telly, and then they suddenly go, oh, we don't want to do another series, and you think, and you didn't even want to do another series, but suddenly you do want to do another series because they don't want you to do another series.
Yeah.
You think, oh, hang on, I didn't even want to do that last week. Now I really want to do it. And there is something about being rejected, which it's really hard to take. And then something else comes along.
How hard is it to watch us get dumped and go through heartbreaks? and stuff?
There's a saying that a parent is only as happy as their unhappiest child. So it really is something that we kind of live through.
That is so true. It's
at the
the
same
greatest
time.
saying. It's so true.
I'm desperate when my kids are really unhappy.
Oh, it's
You know, and
awful.
you kind of go, and then of course you walk out of the room and go, but, you know, it's
It's not true.
it's
You
not
don't.
true. I'm sorry, everyone.
No,
it's
I'm
not.
not going to be opening up to you anymore, Dad.
No, it's
it.
watching somebody else in pain, particularly somebody else you love in pain, is so painful. It's not true because you can't fix it. And then as they get older, then it's worse because then they have relationships with people who are completely gorgeous and lovely.
Yeah, there are a few people that we really miss, aren't there?
Yeah.
That you've been out with.
They've-
I have to admit, we probably do need to be honest about the fact that they're really important things. You know, if you are going to split up with someone, there are things that you need to do to make sure you do it as well as you can.
Oh, there are some rules. There are some quite strong family rules, don't you think? You've been given pretty strict rules about how you split up with.
What are your rules? What would you say your
You be
rules are?
kind. You be kind and you be honourable. And
Not necessarily honest, kind.
well, nobody wants to be completely honest.
I
because-
have also, so I've recently been through a breakup and it was on slightly different circumstances, the breakup. I probably was being a bit of an idiot, but I was probably on the worst form of my entire life for 3 months and I couldn't really.
No, you were so unhappy. It was so painful to watch your little.
Oh my
heart.
God! Please, can you actually stop?
I don't
Please
remember
just stop
being
saying
that painful.
Please
I
can you
was-
stop saying
I
that.
was sad for 2 weeks
He
and then I
needs
got
to go.
bored of
He
it.
needs to actually get over himself. Yeah.
Actually, do you know that was one time when I have resorted to your brothers, and I just went to Billy and said,
No,
"Can-"
I've recently also been in the same position, but I think that what's interesting is that it's obviously very horrible when it happens to you, but then also when it happens when you're doing it, I think that it's, especially if you care about the person, you don't want to make them upset or make them unhappy, which inevitably you are going to do. So you kind of have to make sure that you're nice about it, I think.
You know, if you're going out with someone for 6 months, it's obviously going to be a bit traumatic for both parties, because if you like them sufficiently to be with them for 6 months, then calling a that to an end, even sometimes when it's the kind thing to do, it's still quite hard. A decent relationship is a two-way thing. That's why it's so hard to split up. You know, if you're in a really good relationship, the truth is that not only are you sleeping with your partner, but they're generally your best friend as well.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
if you lose all of that, you know, no wonder it smacks your confidence. The truth is, though, some people get over it more quickly. Some people it takes longer. But the truth is, you always get over it.
What's funny, in my opinion, is that everyone of course, it's the biggest deal in your head. It's the biggest deal, what you're going through at the moment. And it might feel like the end of the world when it's at that really low point and then you get back together. At the time, you know, that, because I've been through that stuff as well, and that feels like the end of the world. Oh my God, this is the worst possible thing that could happen.
A year later, it doesn't.
A year later, it doesn't. And to everyone else, it's like, oh, okay, oh, you split up. Oh, you're back together. Oh, cool. Okay, whatever.
I do have friends though.
Do you know what I mean?
When I was a kid, and it was kind of out with the old, in with the new, and they would almost seem to not worry about it too much. But then they did end up in a situation where they married somebody and they had kids with them. You know, because I just think that sometimes it takes a long time to grow up and be ready to share your life with someone else.
Meandering the journey between being a child and an adult is really complicated. Whatever country you live in, whatever socioeconomic background you come from, it doesn't matter. Relationships are part of meandering that, and finding a life partner if you want to, and if you're fortunate enough to find one if you do want to, is not going to be simple. It's not, you know, there's not a right and a wrong way. It's about testing the water and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. And, you know, it's never going to be simple and plain and easy.
Okay, so in the band, I have actually experienced a bit of rejection. It's mostly on TikTok when I'm trying to sing my heart out, and there are a few comments that get filtered to the bottom, and they're like, "What in the? This guy actually thinks he can sing. This is the worst thing I've ever heard. You're a bloody loser."
That's so rare.
But that's
they make
not
comments like
really
that.
rejection, though. That's just a nasty comment. And I would say that the weird thing
No,
about
but it's me singing, singing, for
Giving
people
of
and then
yourself.
Going,
Yeah, I think that is rejection.
You think that is rejection?
Yeah.
But also there's something interesting about if you're writing a song and you're releasing music and you really feel strongly about this and you're like, this is something I've spent not only a lot of time on, not only a lot of effort, but I also have put my emotions, my current emotions into this, especially if it's a song that you really relate to or that has come from a place of real feeling, and you release it and then people, you know.
But with the band, you're standing up there in front of people who may or may not like you. Luckily, they seem to always like you, but they might not. And your songs that you put out, people might not like
Actually,
you.
do you know what? The worst thing isn't the songs that we put out. If a song doesn't do as well as others, that's not going to be the worst thing. The worst thing I've found, I mean, I'm always looking at the crowd because I'm singing and I'm trying to be a front man. So, and in the early stages, there were crowds that would just come to check us out, see how they feel. Trying to perform to the front bit whilst you're watching other people leave the door whilst you're speaking and singing is heartbreaking. Well, you need to also remember that the toilet's going to be outside as well, and they might go for a fag or, I don't know, go and get a drink. But it's really hard trying to stay excited and stay enthused when people are actually leaving whilst you're trying to speak to them.
That's what makes you learn. You know, that teaches you a lesson, you know.
And if I didn't have that, then there would probably still be people walking out now.
Yeah, I think rejection is something that you learn from, especially in terms of, you know, musically, especially in terms of a crowd. You know, it's the basic learning. And if you feel rejected by someone, you go, okay, why did that happen?
Yeah.
It is harder. All of these things are harder on your own. But, you know, when there's the band, there's the five of you. So however badly, you know, a few years ago when you had the odd gig that didn't go quite so well. And I thought, the thing is you've got your brothers and your dad, or you've got all your sons, like the 5 of you, you've got like a support network. It's much easier. On your own is a lot harder. And without anyone at home, it would be harder. So I think we're very lucky, but rejection is hard either way. Maybe we shouldn't see rejection as being a bad thing. Maybe we should see rejection as a bit of a badge of honor, because it shows you've tried. And if you don't try, you're never going to win.
Okay, so after the break, we're going to be speaking about the Mandela Effect. All right, so we're going to be talking about the Mandela Effect. Do any of you guys know what the Mandela Effect is?
I've heard it a million times, but I've never actually worked out what it is.
Does it mean you're a good person?
No.
think
Basically, go on. What do you think it is?
Is it slightly about, I think that there was something where they thought Mandela had died, and it was printed in the press that Mandela had died, and everybody believed it, that he was dead. And then, I don't know, however much later it was, he was released from prison and he was still alive and he became the president.
That's exactly what it is. So basically, it's a strange phenomenon where entire groups of people misremember the same thing. So in Nelson Mandela's case, basically it's named after Nelson Mandela because for years, many people wrongly believed he died in prison in the 1980s, when in reality, he was released and went on to become South Africa's president and didn't die until 2013. So in Star Wars, what does Darth Vader say to Luke?
Luke, I am your father.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I am your father.
Luke, I am your father. No, the line is, no, I am your father.
Oh,
What?
is it?
Luke, I am your father.
He doesn't say it like that. He says, Luke, no, I am your father.
Hang on, I'm slightly, so hang on. So I thought that the Mandela effect was basically, you think somebody's died and then all of a sudden they go, ta-da, only kidding.
No,
it wasn't.
It's basically you tell a lie.
It's
enough
not a lie.
times.
It's nothing. It's nothing to do with a lie.
Misaccurate.
It's like
It's a group
fake
understanding from fake news.
Fake news.
But
Donald
it's
Trump,
not to do.
he's
No.
an expert.
But you're
at it.
complete-
52% of
what?
Americans are
You
going
guys-
through that in a minute, aren't
You
they?
need to listen to me because you completely are misunderstanding what the Mandela effect is. It's nothing to do with fake news. It's just a whole group of people completely remembering, but not remembering the right information.
Yeah, but that's what it
But
is.
that's
It's
nothing
fake
to do.
news.
It's nothing to do with fake news because never ever did it say that Nelson Mandela had died. So, what do you think the famous line in Snow White was?
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's magic mirror on the wall.
No, it's not.
It is.
It's definitely not. And I am going to fight you over this when we get off the podcast because it's so 100%.
I'm being deadly serious. It is.
So
That's
how
the whole-
did it go wrong?
Do you remember at the beginning of the Disney films, Tinkerbell would fly over the castle with a wand?
Yeah,
The wand.
we've been to that castle.
That never happened. That's just people remembering it wrong.
No, it did happen.
No, it
It
didn't.
did happen. It happened in the film when it was Tinkerbell and she flew over.
Didn't.
Well, what was she
promise you.
doing?
Why do we all think it happened?
So basically, scientists think this happens because of the way our brains store and reconstruct memories, while others blame the internet for spreading false info so widely that it starts to feel real.
The only explanation I've got for this is that it must spread from one person to another and then become urban myth.
I think it's actually not. It's actually, I think what it is it's a kind of mass generalization. So
Well, a misgeneralization, isn't it? It's a mass misgeneralization.
yeah, it's assumptions that are inaccurate, but on a mass. But I think the reason that they're inaccurate is because they kind of make sense.
Yeah.
I think the truth is that you and I are the absolute masters of Mandelaing all sorts of different situations, to be honest.
That is probably true, actually.
Because we get caught up in our own stories.
That is also true. And also, why ruin a story for the truth? I remember my dad getting really cross with me once because I came back and said, there were millions of people there. And he went, well, that is ridiculous. Factually incorrect. There would not have been millions of people there. And I went, what I meant is there were a lot, like 80 or something. But I don't think you need to be factually correct, do
He
you?
could embellish a good story, though.
He did, but I wasn't allowed to. But I think exaggeration
I've
is...
got a question. Do you remember when me and Billy made squirrel suits and we jumped off of the tree?
Yes.
I remember jumping off, and because I had the little tail flap past my legs, it got caught on the branch. When you found me, was I swinging?
No.
Well, how was I?
On the floor crying. But I will go with the Mandela that you were swinging.
I know, I thought it got caught, and then my squirrel suit got caught, and I like swang back.
Swang.
And I
Do you know what?
swung back, and my head hit the ground whilst I was swinging, and then I was caught swinging.
No, that's two stories. So you've Mandela'd that one, and there was another story where you were on the kitchen table and standing on a book, and you leapt off it, but the book slipped and you landed on your face, and that was a face fall. That was another trip to casualty.
Well, I think the biggest example of Mandela-ing anything is childbirth.
It was wonderful childbirth.
Exactly. I remember 56 hours before Billy was finally born, going, oh my God, is she going to make it? Is the baby going to survive? And we got what are you doing? It was absolutely awful, the whole thing. And you going, you know,
No.
get me more drugs. Give it on the gas and air. I want pethidine. Give me a epidural. That's what I remember.
I did not say that.
A week later, you came out going, right, yeah, let's oh, it'd be nice. Look, it'd be nice to have another baby, wouldn't it?
No, it didn't hurt that much. I don't remember it hurting.
No, that's because you were high on pethidine. I think that you've Mandela'd the whole situation, the whole afters.
So you don't remember it being torture?
No. Oh,
I remember afterwards you had to get into a bath and turn the shower on so that you could have a pee because it hurt so much.
oh. I don't know if anyone needs to know that. It did smart a little.
Oh, I do
Just a little
remember.
bit.
I do remember. Do you know? I wish I could Mandela that.
And after the break, which is going to be in about 3 to 4 seconds, hopefully, we're going to be taking a listener question.
This is the part of the show where we take a question from you, the listeners. And this week's question is, good morning, Sarah, Graham, Billy and Charlie. You're included in the question.
Thank you very much.
Loving the podcast. Thank you so much for bringing gritty, honest family chats to the table. I would love for you to discuss sexuality with 4 boys. How did you approach sexuality? Was it always a clear direction for the boys? And how much discussion took place around this subject? As a gay guy growing up in the late 80s and 90s, it wasn't discussed like it is today. And it made my teens and 20s very challenging. Thanks so much, Adam. Thank you very much, Adam.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for including me as well. Adam.
Yeah,
That's very
he's
kind of
really
you.
flattered.
That was always a conversation that we had very openly. And I remember you two speaking to me about it. Whenever I felt a little bit shy or insecure about something like that, you know, I think weirdly it was Dad who I would go to because I felt that it was...
Because you knew that in the 80s and 90s, I went to an all-boys school.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
So
I kind of learned...
and I imagine everyone...
I learned that it
would-
wasn't really my bag, you know?
Oh, well, yeah.
Through
Yeah.
literally second-hand experience.
God. Really? God.
I did want to say that the conversations that you used to have with me about sexuality growing up were amazing. And if I was to just hang out with you guys, I would have felt so totally secure if I was gay or if I wanted to sleep with whoever I wanted to. I would have felt very comfortable doing that. It was, you know, the problem would have been at school. That would have been where I kind of would have felt judged. But that's where I felt kind of judged anyway, even though, you know, going through that weird period where you are changing and growing and someone's growing up way faster than someone else, and then suddenly you're feeling insecure about that, or someone's growing up way faster than the other people. And
So it's actually your peers more than your parents. That is the really
100%.
scary thing. What I would love to know is, you know,
I don't think
kind of
people care as much as you think they care, though, as well. That's
that
an
is
interesting
true.
point.
So I had gay friends that were at my school all the way through from year one, probably not year one, but all the way up until the end. But no one ever thought about it because they had come out and if anyone tried to take the piss and try and offend them about it, they'd go, yeah, but what's there to offend? which is really cool. But then there are a lot of people.
You have to be very secure for that.
You have to
though.
be so secure. And there were so many people that are probably going to come out around my age that just couldn't grow, weren't confident enough to ever talk about it because they didn't want to risk not fitting in.
I do think we have made a lot of progress, and I think it's really brilliant that now at school that you had gay friends at school who were open and out as gay, and that was all fine. I do think children per se want to fit in. You don't want to be different in any way at all. It doesn't matter what it is. You don't want to have different parents. You don't want to have a different house. You don't want to. And I guess the truth is that in most schools, if you take 1,000 pupils, there might be maybe 100 people who are gay, but most people won't be because that's how it is. Mm-hmm. And therefore you'll be the exception, and therefore it takes courage, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember my dad, who would now be 95-ish. I remember him saying to me, it's a more complicated path to choose, but I don't care if it makes you happy. You know, and I think at the time, weirdly, it was a more complicated path. You know, 80s and 90s, it was more difficult.
There was
much more judgment.
Did that feel like a viewpoint typical of his generation?
Absolutely not.
No,
absolutely not at all. But my parents were weirdly liberal, but they looked much more conservative.
I think if you're excited by life and you're excited and you don't mind seeing other people happy and other people well, because you're excited by your own life, then you're never going to care, are you? It's if you're, I feel like the only people that are going to be really homophobic are going to be really grumpy and really unhappy.
The people who are homophobic have an aversion to fun people.
Yeah.
As far as I can see.
I sort of think if you're not going to sleep with them, I'm not sure why it's any of your business who they sleep with.
And Mum and Dad, a lot of your friends are gay, so it meant that, and I had been watching them growing up and just seeing almost as many gay people as straight people, and it made it almost completely not a problem in any way whatsoever. I wouldn't have even had a second thought about it if I did turn out to be gay. But
I mean, it's true about everything in life, I think. I think if you see no representation of gay people anywhere in the public eye or in parliament or in politics or in as teachers or anywhere, then why, when you're growing up, you've got no reference points. You've got no reference points to think, oh, well, I think I'm gay, but look, there's no reference point of any adult ever that I've ever seen who's gay. So am I just weird? Whereas you need that, if you have reference points of teachers who are gay and people who are, government who are gay and rock stars who are gay, then you think, oh, okay, so if I am gay, then that's okay. And that is what you need, isn't it? Same as women. You need women in all these roles to kind of go, oh, I can be a female footballer and I can be a female politician. I do think it does feel like in some areas we are slipping backwards. And so I guess it's more important than ever that we keep being really vocal in our support of marginalised communities and make sure that we stand up and be counted. So in this episode, we talked about rejection, relationships, and sexuality. If any of these topics resonated with you, here are some organisations that might be of interest. If you're struggling with a breakup, rejection, or relationship challenge, Relate is the UK's leading relationship support charity. They offer counselling, advice, and resources to help people navigate everything from heartbreak to rebuilding confidence. You can find out more at relate.org.uk. And if you or someone you know is figuring out their sexuality, coming out, or just looking for some LGBTQ plus support, Switchboard is a confidential LGBTQ plus helpline available every day from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Their trained volunteers offer a safe space to talk no matter what you're going through. You can call them on 0300 330 0630 or visit switchboard.lgbt.org. As always, the websites for those organisations are in the show notes. So thank you very much. Seriously.
Thank you very much.
everybody.
I want to say a serious thank you for listening.
You just cringed me out. We got the whole way through the podcast with you cringing me in
Zero
one
cringe.
way possible. And then you did it. You just
I can
snuck
cringe.
it in at the end.
I can cringe. Seriously, goodbye.
Nope.
If you'd like to submit a topic for us to discuss, please email us. The address is mail@seriouslywithsarahbeeny.co.uk. Seriously was created by me, your host, Sarah Beeny, and our producer, Jonathan Profaska. The show is recorded and edited by Jonathan Profaska and Christian Kay.